But we're so wrapped up in a million things all the time that we can't be mindful of what we're doing because we're already 5 hours ahead at what we have to do later.
Yep.
And your work could be meditative.
Welcome to another episode of Hand Forged. We're here today with Candace Lord with the Green Cocoon. Me and Candace met each other through BNI, I think.
Yeah, last winter, I think we were introduced by another BNI person who was like, if you don't know each other, you should.
Yeah. Was it Joe? I think it was Joe. Poirier?
It could, yeah. Yes,
I think
it was Joe.
Yep. Yeah, it was Joe. Yeah, we met, and then...
Joe does my marketing.
Does he?
Yeah, great guy.
He's done some stuff for us, too. He does some stuff on the website. They host our website.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so met Candace through Joe, through BNI, through business networking groups. We hooked up. Candace is at every friggin' networking event that is possible in the Northeast, pretty much. So I see her everywhere.
I saw you last night.
Yeah, it was on North Shore Home Ag. No, that was the New Hampshire Builders, New Hampshire Home Builders Association event. You hosted that, right?
I did.
Yeah. So she hosted an event with the New Hampshire Home Builders. I saw her there. I think I saw you last week at something. So yeah, we see each other a lot. I wanted to bring Candace on to kind of talk about business a little bit, how she got into what she's doing now, but also to kind of talk a little bit about, mental health, spiritual health, kind of what she does to kind of do everything that she does and still stay sane, pretty much. A big part of this podcast is obviously helping blue collar businesses grow. And talking about mental health in the blue collar businesses is really important. I literally just got off the phone with a friend in the parking lot who's having some issues. He's been a blue collar guy his whole life, and brother called me and is having some issues and sounding like he needs some help, kind of thing. And so for me, this has been a big part of my life for a long time. And I think the trades are not always the healthiest place to be. And I think it's really important to kind of talk about it and to kind of figure out some ways that people can just be a little bit more healthy, even if it's 10 minutes of just breath work, So that's why we brought Candace on. But first of all, let's, Candace, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you, a little bit about the Green Cocoon and kind of what you do.
Yeah. So, I was kind of born and raised on North Shore, Massachusetts. Went to high school in Amesbury. Traveled abroad. I went to Northeastern, studied languages and linguistics.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you get a degree?
I do. I have a degree from Northeastern University.
Interesting.
So I'm not just incredibly good looking. I'm also smart.
And you can talk.
I can't. I get paid to talk. It's great. I tried to say that I get paid to use my mouth, but it didn't go over well. So they cut that one.
Yeah, that could go one way.
But no. And then I studied languages and linguistics, so I had to do a study abroad, and I wanted to go to Mexico because Mexico's cool, and I like tacos and tequila and whatever. So I went there, but ultimately ended up falling in love with the culture and the people. I finished my degree down there at the University of the Americas, and
I love that.
Yeah, and lived there for 6 years. Both my kids were born down there.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
Yep, we're all bilingual, and I worked as a simultaneous translator. So that's what I had studied. And when I came back to the States, it was kind of like the bottom of that recession, like 2005, 2006, and I couldn't find work in my field. So my boyfriend at the time who is still the president of the company. He was running his business, and we'd been together, 8 months or so. And his business partner died, had a heart attack while driving, and
oh my God,
just died. So I was kind of in between jobs and doing a little personal training on the side and waitressing and whatever. And I had free time, and I said, "Can I help you in any way?" Because he was not really grieving. He just I got bids to do and got to keep the show rolling, And so he would give me these stacks of papers, and they were bank statements. And then he would open QuickBooks and he'd say, "I'm going to show you this one time." That was that's how I learned everything I ever learned about business. I'm going to show you this one time. And so he's like, "I need these to match this," which we actually came to find out about 10 years later that that's actually not how that works. And thank God I don't do the bookkeeping for the company. You live and learn. You're business owners. You wear all the hats.
Oh, yeah.
You do it all. It doesn't matter if it's not 100% right. You have to do it.
Yep.
So that's how I started. And then he was always busy, so I didn't really get to spend a lot of time with him. So I would, when on my days off, I would drive around with him in the car and go to go to appointments, watch him measure jobs. He would take voicemails or take calls in the car, and I would take notes for him. So I slowly kind of was just absorbing all this stuff about the industry and the business and insulation and our values and all these different things. And then I kind of slowly just started doing more for him, doing more. And then eventually I was super useful, and I just decided to come on full time as like the OB, you know? So I was like the office manager for a while and did paperwork and scheduling, and we got real busy, and he's like, hey, I need you to look at a job. And I was like, me? You want me to look at a job? I was absolutely terrified. He's like, you have those cute pink Tims, right? He's like, put the pink Tims on, bring a hard hat, and go look at a job. I don't know how to do that. He's like, you know how to measure perimeter, measure wall height, count the windows. He's like, just smile, say yes. Any questions they have you don't know the answer, say, I don't know that answer to that, but I'll get that answer for you right when I get back to the office. So I did that. I measured like a couple of jobs. I was terrified. And then we actually hired a sales guy. Oh, man, the sales guy. He was with us for like a year and a half, and he had been in camera sales for like 10 years. So nothing to do with the trades, but had been in sales. So, he's chugging along and whatever. And I went to a networking event with him about a year and a half in to him working for us. And listening to him talk to people about like our products was like mortifying because it was not correct. And I was like, I feel like you should know this by now. He's like, oh yeah, spray foam, it's like styrofoam. It's like, it's just like styrofoam. And I'm like, it's not like styrofoam. That's polystyrene. This is polyurethane. This is like a different thing. So I said something to my business partner at the time. I was like, I don't know that he's really giving off like the right information. And for me, sure, I could be nitpicking because maybe people don't know. It doesn't matter if what it's like, or you tell them it's like styrofoam or whatever. It's ultimately, is that like super important? But I am so anal retentive about giving correct information, about educating people appropriately, about being completely transparent with what you do, and about how we represent ourselves and the company.
I believe that's what makes you a good salesperson.
I do say fuck a lot. So, I mean, that's the only thing I'm going to say. Yeah, but other than that,
but it's a blue collar business. Like,
Yeah, but I work with like super high-end architects, super wealthy customers, and I can't be in and like, yeah, look at that fucking thing. Like you can't.
So this fucking foam.
Yeah, this foam looks like shit, man. Who did this? But like it's really important to me. And so whenever we hire salespeople, like I said my business partner, he's my ex-husband now, by the way. So we'll get that story goes we could have a whole other podcast about that. That's like a Lifetime movie. But
we'll just leave it at business partner.
Yeah, my business partner. He would like train somebody for like a week or two and just send them out. Just go figure it out. Just go measure some jobs. Here, you know how to measure now, go figure it out. And I am like, I want this person to like shadow me for 90 days. I want them to do a full a building science course. I have all these like parameters before I send them anywhere because they're representing the company, and I have built our reputation to be a certain way. And if I'm sending somebody out, I need them to like match that reputation. So I said something to him, and he's like, yeah, sales numbers aren't that good. Like, why don't we do this? He's like, I'm going to change the phones so that if it's an after hours call, it'll get forwarded to your phone. So he'll only get the calls that he gets in the office. And anything that comes in after hours, you can get the voicemails, and you can take some of those sales calls if you think that you can do better. And I was like, oh, set a challenge, challenge accepted. So I did sales for 3 months. And I landed more work in 3 months than he had landed in like the last year and a half. So I sent him those stats, and I said, look, these are my sales. I went on his sheet. These are his sales. Clearly that he's not our guy.
Right.
And I wasn't saying that because I wanted to do sales. I was happy doing like admin stuff and whatever, going to networking events like here and there. And he was like, are those numbers real? And I was like, no, they're real. Like, you can check them. They're real. So he immediately fired the guy and said, you're in sales.
Smart.
And that's how I got into sales.
I love it.
So we've kind of gone through a few people over the last 2 years, salespeople trying to find the right fit, and I'm currently still alone
Yeah.
again. But it's I love what I do. I can handle a pretty solid volume of stuff plus all the networking events, and it fires me up. So
Yeah. I think that in sales, education and knowing your product is like so key in that, because A, it makes you more confident in selling product, but B, like the more information you can give somebody about a product, the more comfortable they are buying it from you. So like when I've told the story before, when I was younger, I had a job where I was doing service calls on furniture, and I was working on furniture that was worth more than I was making in a year. But I was really good at it. But I was young, and I used to look like a gangster, and like, people were uncomfortable with me working on their stuff because it was so expensive and I was so young. So what I learned was like, all right, I'm going to start educating myself more on the product. And like that way, when I go into the house, I can just give them a ton of information and make them a little bit more comfortable with letting me do the job. And then what I would do is like, so I did a ton of research. That's when I really started getting into like furniture and manufacturing and that type of stuff. And I learned as much as I could about the product and the processes. And then when I would go in, you could always tell they were like a little uneasy. I'd be like, listen, I know it's a brand new table. It's got a big dent in the top. So my job is to come out here and repair this. The factory has guys just like me that are doing these types of repairs on the furniture before it leaves the factory all the time. They have a leg up because they get to do it not in front of you. I have to do it right in front of you. I said, and then I would just go into like the process of finishing, what they use, how they build it, all this different stuff. And then I would talk about how I was repairing it, the product I was using, how it was the same product as what they were using in the factory. And I'd tell them like, listen, I'm going to do this repair. I have to do it anyways. That's my job. If you like it when I'm done, great, you can keep it. If you don't, I'll get you a new table. No big deal. I said, at least let me practice. But you could slowly see them turn the corner as I was talking, specifically about product and how it reacts and how it works and how it was manufactured, how it was built, where it came from, all that type of stuff. And, my numbers in that job were higher than anybody else's. And I just attribute it to the education and having all of the right information and just making people comfortable. It's the same thing in sales. Like if I'm going to sell my cabinets, I'm going to tell you everything about the cabinets, where they're built, how they're built, what they offer, what the modifications are, and if I can't or don't have that answer, I'll get it for you. And it just makes people more comfortable when they're working with somebody who knows the product that they're selling inside and out. Because it just shows that you're like passionate about it. It shows that you like what you're doing. Nobody wants to buy something from somebody that's like doesn't care about it. You know what I mean?
it's so true. And I mean, part of my job is sales. But I feel like to me, sales is like door to door, like cold calling. Like, hey, do you want to buy some insulation? Like, it maybe if I did a home show and there's 50 different kinds of businesses there and someone happens to walk by my booth and I'm like, hey, you know, do you have a minute? I'd love to talk to you about what we do. That's sales. Most of my leads just come in to us. You know, they're calling the company, they're finding us online, they're being, you know, they're already in the market for it. They were a referral. I think 60% of the work I land is referral based, maybe even more. And then I'm like half of my business is repeat customers. So
Yep.
I'm not selling anything. You want what I've got. You called me.
Yeah.
You called me.
Yep.
What? I'm not selling you anything. I'm telling you what your options are.
Yep.
You already know what we have. Now, some of my customers are super educated. They already know exactly what they want. They know the codes. They have a Google degree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotta love the Google degree.
Gotta love it. I got a couple of those, actually, Google degrees. And then I have people who just know they need more insulation. They have ice dams. My roofer said I probably need more insulation. And so then I do have to go out and I consider my job more consulting and education based than anything else. I mean, I know we're probably the most expensive insulation company in the market in our area. So,
Yeah.
you know, if you're looking for cheap, I'm not it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but we still stay busy and we are still, you know, highly respected in the industry. And I mean, we're not like gouging anybody. It's just you're paying for the service you're getting.
Right.
You're paying for me answering the phone
Yep.
on the weekend. You're paying for flexible scheduling. You're paying for knowledgeable and qualified people.
Right.
And one of the things, the feedback I get from a lot of people is, yeah, you were a little more expensive, but I went with you because you were so knowledgeable.
Yep.
Or I got 4 quotes and you were the only one to give me that option.
Yep.
Which for a lot of people could be like, well, 3 of them said it should be done this way. Who's this? They clearly don't know what they're doing. But I can explain it to them and break it down in a way that they can understand, where they're like, that totally makes sense. Why didn't the other companies say that?
Yeah.
And I say, because the other companies don't have the building science knowledge. My industry, completely unlicensed and unregulated.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Anybody can buy a foam rig and be like, I'm a spray foam professional.
Yeah.
Without taking a single class, single course. They can go on YouTube, watch a couple videos. Manufacturers don't ask for any licensing. They'll just sell you product. And then they can go out and ruin people's homes.
Yeah.
It's spray foam. People, spray foam gets a bad rap, but it's not the product. It's the people that are installing it that are, I told a lady last night at the event, like, if I do your brakes in your car, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
But we're not gonna start a campaign of like, stop getting brakes in your car. They're dangerous. This one time this lady died. You have to have a qualified mechanic install your brakes. So I'm really pushing, and I'm urging people in my industry to push for legislation. A lot of the people in the trades are more on the conservative side with that, and they don't want more regulation. They don't want, more rules and whatever. But for our industry, it's super important that we have that. For safety, it's going to give us more power. It's going to give us higher wages, and it's going to get rid of the riffraff, right. and it's going to bring more respect to the products and to what we're doing.
And more qualified people in, which is important.
Super important. So I'm able to, break it down for customers because I am BPI certified. That's the Building Performance Institute. So I'm like an envelope analyst. And through our national organization, it's called SPFA. It's the Spray Polyurethane Foam Alliance. We have master certified installers, which is a very lengthy process to get there. And field testing and written tests and all this stuff. And you have to have like 1 million board feet sprayed. And then I'm a level above that, which is project manager. So you have a whole other like plethora of things you need to know to do that. And if you go onto their website and you search for contractors in your area, there's like 2 of us.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show, like, the education side of things, like, how important that is. And not everybody is looking for the cheapest out there. I mean, some people are, for sure, but I tell people the same thing with the cabinet shop. Like, I'm not going to be your cheapest route, but what you get from us is this, this, and this, which you're not going to get from them, so and I've been doing this my whole life, So it's, I mean, I think it's super important. Certifications are important, especially for stuff like that, because, like, that can go terribly wrong. Especially like insulating homes. It's
super important because you can change your light fixtures, you can change the flooring, you can change your countertops, you can change your cabinets.
Yep.
But once your insulation's in, especially in the walls or if you have vaulted ceilings, it's in.
Yeah.
And your fix is a gut of that house. That's your fix. People call me all the time, my house is super drafty, I have ice dams. And I go in with the thermal camera and it's just fiberglass that was just installed really poorly, not vented properly. Like I can see through the walls. I know what I'm looking at with the thermal camera. And they're like, well, what do we do for that? And I'm like, nothing, absolutely nothing, unless you want to rip it apart.
Yeah.
And like, oh, well, what about like pouring injection foam in? There's this, I won't say any names, but there's a chain of insulation company that shows these beautiful walls with plexiglass and it has fiberglass and they pour a tube. And the fiberglass magically compresses and it fills with foam and everything's great. And it doesn't work like that. Yeah. And there's a whole Facebook page dedicated to victims of this company. So
oh, no way.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Pretty great.
Interesting.
So yeah, there's really not great companies out there and there's some really good ones. Like, but you have to do your due diligence and you have to read reviews and you have to ask for references. And I think the biggest thing, because if I'm going to give you a list of references, I'm clearly going to give you a list of people that are going to say nice things about me. So asking for references is like kind of dumb at this point in this day and age. Like,
call my mom. She'll vouch for me.
Yeah, exactly. My mom, my biggest fan. But it would be like, what are your qualifications? What certifications do you have? Are you nationally accredited? Are you a member of the SPFA? What do you know about building science? Like, do you have any building science certifications? Ask things like that. And if they like, Not your people.
Yeah.
Not your people.
Yeah, unless you want to have issues or unless you want cheap.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
throw some fiberglass in. You'll be fine. It'll be
Right.
infested with rodents in 6 to 12 months. And
Wait, does a spray foam keep rodents out?
sure does.
Oh, shit. I didn't know that.
They take the path of least resistance. And let me tell you that spray foam is not that bad. Ask any electrician.
True.
They freaking hate it.
Yeah. That's
Sorry to
funny.
all the electricians out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like that whole industry with like foam and insulation is just one of those, in my experience, kind of a crapshoot. Like, a lot of people think that just going to staple up some fiberglass and you're good type of thing. And it's like, I don't know if that's the way it works,
It's not. And I talked about this yesterday.
especially around here.
We could delve into like building science here like pretty deeply, but I think for anybody who's in the trades who deals with insulation or who has to recommend insulation to customers, the thing we need to be talking about is effective R value. R value by itself is garbage. It doesn't mean anything. If you can blow air through something, it doesn't have an R value because R value is measured in a vacuum chamber. Your walls, your attic, your basement, your crawl space, those are not vacuum chambers. So what's printed on the package or in their white papers is the R value it had in perfect conditions in a vacuum chamber. When you put it into your wall assembly, depending on your air barriers, your type of air barrier, your type of framing, how much insulation you have, your climate zone, the direction your wall is facing, all of these different things, then you can calculate an effective R value. And it's not the same. So when people are like, oh, whatever, it just has to be R30, I put fiberglass in, it's R30. It's not the same. R30 of fiberglass is not the same as R30 of spray foam. So if you want something to actually be the R value that you think it's going to be, it has to be either put in a perfectly airtight cavity, which is really hard to do, and then as buildings age, as they settle, things move, and now you have leaks. You want to use something like spray foam, or you want to use continuous insulation on the outside first so that you can ensure that that cavity is tight enough that you're going to have an effective R value.
Yeah, makes sense.
We really need to be talking about this.
So now your biggest jobs are probably going to be, or definitely going to be full gut renos or new construction, right?
Yeah, those are going to be in terms of dollar value. But we do a ton of small stuff too.
Yeah. How does a small job work?
Small renovations.
Oh, yeah.
Small additions. But we also do tons of existing attics.
Oh, yeah.
Where people just have a pull down or a hatch and they're like, I'm paying $900 a month to heat this place. And so I go in the attic, I go in the basement, I look at everything that I can. And everybody thinks their house is special, but it's not. Everybody has an attic and has probably similar issues. And the issues are they've got fiberglass.
Yeah.
And it's been compressed through the years. It has rodent tunnels in it. It's not properly vented. And as it compresses over time, it loses its R value. That airspace between the fibers, that's what gives it its insulating properties.
Right.
So when it's compressed, it's nothing. So
now, does your company go in and tear out old insulation?
oh, we sure
spray?
do. We have a sucker outer. It's a
sucker outer.
It's a sucker outer. We have a rig fitted with a sucker outer. It's a specialty term.
So it's just like a big vacuum?
It is. It's just a giant
and
vacuum.
you just go and suck all the insulation
Yeah,
out?
we pull the bats out and bag it, and anything that's blown in gets sucked out. They literally clean it till it's like squeaky clean. Then we can address proper air sealing. Then we can actually test ventilation. We can cover can lights. We can air seal your hatch or put in a pull down cover before we do anything. A lot of companies will be like, oh yeah, you have about an R or whatever, and we'll blow R40 over it. And now you'll have R50. But again, if you're not addressing the air sealing first, you are not adding R anything.
Yeah.
You're just slowing down the heat loss, but you're not stopping it.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
But what do I know?
Clearly nothing.
Nothing. I'm just a woman in the trades.
Yep.
That's a good segue.
That's
I set you up for that one.
What is like the biggest like challenge, or what would be like the selling point against you? Like what would somebody say against spray foam? Like what's the downside to it?
Cost. Cost prohibitive. There's a lot of misnomers out there about spray foaming against a roof and creating an unvented roof assembly, that if you get a leak, it's going to rot out the roof, or you're going to trap condensation, it's going to rot out the roof. They're not going to warranty the shingles.
Will they not warranty the shingles?
There's like one company out there too that says that they won't, but you could technically fight it. But we spray foam roofs on probably 90% of our new constructions. So I doubt that these very qualified and educated builders are doing this and going, well, whatever, it'll be fine. Like, you know, they clearly they're going to warranty it. Also, it's it off gases and it's going to make you sick. I mean, can spray foam off gas? Sure, it does off gas for about 36 hours or so. It's mostly off gassed in the first couple of hours, and then it continues. And by off gassing, what's happening is the blowing agent gets trapped. So closed cell, there's open cell and closed cell spray foam. Closed cell spray foam is blown with a blowing agent, a chemical blowing agent. And so the blowing agent gets trapped in the cells of the spray foam. So think about like the gas between the window panes that makes that more insulated. Same exact thing in spray foam. It's a gas that gets trapped. But also in between each cell, there's a little bit of gas that gets stuck. And so it kind of makes its way out over a day and a half, which is why no one can be present during the install. You come back 24 hours later.
Makes sense.
That's if it's sprayed in the correct ratio, at the correct temperature, and you have proper chemical reaction.
Yeah.
Which happens when you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're doing and you have faulty equipment and you're spraying too hot or you don't have a good mix, it basically what you're creating is a different material. You're not creating standard polyurethane closed cell spray foam. You're creating something else. And because it's not stable, it will continue to off gas. So there's so much focus on spray foam and like no focus on all of these unqualified people that are spraying it.
Yeah.
So for me, I can shoot down anybody that comes at me with something about spray foam's dangerous, spray foam's this. You know, spray foam, sure, up front, it's a plastic. It's a petroleum product. It's not super eco-friendly up front. But the carbon that you're going to save over the lifetime of that project is so huge in comparison to what's put off initially to create it that it just makes complete sense to use it.
Yeah.
And the new blowing agents, which as of January 1st of this year, you can no longer use HFC blowing agents, which are hydrofluorocarbons, really bad for the environment, for global warming. They used to have like a 26-year atmospheric life, meaning it was up there creating global warming for 26 years. So now the new blowing agent is an HFO, which is hydrofluoroolefin. I just like to say that because it makes me sound smart.
Yeah.
But
Wicked smart.
Wicked smart. That has an atmospheric life of 11 days.
Oh, sure.
So anything manufactured as of January 1st forward has to have that new blowing agent, but we have 3 years to spray and get rid of what's already been produced. But so that's huge. So we've only been spraying HFO foam for 8 or 10 years.
Oh, gotcha.
It didn't
so it's
cost
been
any
around
more
for a
to
while.
buy it.
Right.
So why wasn't everybody using it? But we've branded ourselves as a company with the most eco-friendly products. So even though spray foam itself might not be super eco-friendly as a product, we've only been using the one with the cleaner blowing agent. But we also we don't just do spray foam. We do plenty of foam-free projects as well.
Oh, what's that mean?
So we use mineral wool, rock wool. We use a lot of blown-in cellulose, dense pack cellulose, and we also use the new Timber HP products. Those are super cool. Those are made in Maine. So all the old paper mills that got shut down, that like devastated a lot of towns because like half the town was like employed at those paper mills.
Right.
So this company went in, these guys that used to work in Europe as home builders, American guys, they saw all these wood fiber products that were used in all of the building over there in Europe. And they were like, why don't we have stuff like this that's readily available in the States? So they came back, they bought the paper mills, got them back up and running, rehired all the employees, and they take all that wood byproduct, and instead of making paper, they're making insulation. They're making bats, they're making rigid, and they're making a blown-in.
Oh, that's
and
badass.
It's 100% wood fiber, grown and made in the U.S.
How was it as far as insulation?
I mean, as insulation, it works great. I mean, installing it, pain in the ass. Absolute pain in the ass.
Why?
You're literally cutting wood.
Huh.
Like, think about like a fiberglass bat. You can cut straight through. Rock wool, kind of tough. This stuff, you literally need like a electric turkey carver to get through this stuff. Yeah. And then there have had a couple of iterations. The first generation, you'd try to blow it and it would kind of stick to itself. And so they've gotten feedback from everybody and made 2 or 3 iterations, and now they're getting easier to work with. But It's just more challenging. It's more time consuming to work with, so it's going to be a little more expensive.
Yeah.
Not as a material, but just to install.
Yeah.
But works wonderful so far. I mean, and it's been used in Europe for 30, 40 years, so they have, they know that it works.
Right. And climates like this?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, Norway, Switzerland. I mean,
That's cool.
yeah.
I didn't even realize there was that many types of insulation, I knew there was spray in, blow in, and
Fiberglass. And timber and rock wool and blown in rock wool. And you have sheep's wool. And you have hemp and you have hempcrete. And then you
How
have...
is the hemp stuff?
I mean, I know hemp has lots of uses, but I've never used it for insulation.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool. Hempcrete's pretty cool. Like they make like concrete blocks out of hemp and mud.
Yeah.
And those are super sturdy. I mean,
Yeah.
they've been building huts out of straw and mud for like ever. So
Yeah, I've heard a lot of like huge advantages to using hemp for a lot of different things because of how fast it grows and how hard it is.
yeah, hemp and bamboo are super renewable.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of like, wood products and paper. Just crazy, but I guess it's a whole other thing. Maybe Maha will do something with that.
Yeah.
All right. So, that's a lot of insulation information. Let's talk a little bit about mental health, spiritual health.
Yeah.
I know that you're big into that type of stuff. And again, the trades
I wore
are...
my beads just for you.
I appreciate it. They're very nice beads.
Thank you.
I feel like, so again, my own journey, right? I found meditation probably about closer to 15 years ago. And I used to be a real hothead. I fought a lot. I was real quick to throw hands.
I could see that.
Regardless of where we were or who it was or how many, so... I definitely had some anger issues. Been through a lot of things, right? Things kind of create the animal you are sometimes. And I found meditation. I was actually running a community service-based woodworking program for a treatment center for addicts and alcoholics. And I'd bring a couple guys in like 2 days a week, and we would do like community service-based woodworking projects. And in the 12 steps of recovery, like meditation is a big thing. And the owner of that facility is a good friend of mine. And he asked me to make a bunch of meditation benches. And I was like, dude, I don't know what a fucking meditation bench is. And he's like, well, they just like fold up and you do them out of wood. And I'm like, all right, yeah. I mean, I can make anything, but like, so I started making these meditation benches. And it was kind of cool because like I had this product. It was like the first product I ever made that I could actually like market and sell. So like I was reaching out to other treatment centers and being like, hey, make these meditation benches, Didn't know what meditation was or the purpose of it or anything. And, so I started doing, a little bit, right? And just trying to kind of be present, sit with myself for 10 minutes in silence and just try and be present. And it was so fucking hard at first, because like, I call it quieting the storm, right? When you sit with yourself in silence, there's a fucking storm up there, right? And like trying to just shut that down a little bit, quiet the storm is difficult. And people get frustrated that they'll start in meditation and like, I can't focus for that long. I can't focus for that long. But it's like anything else. It's called a practice for a reason because you practice it on a regular basis. And even to this day, like I meditate on a regular basis and there's some days that I have a hard time focusing.
Just can't do it.
Yeah, it's hard. But sitting for the 10 minutes and trying is better than not doing it at all. And that's what I found.
Is meditating.
Yeah, right.
That's what there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
They're
agreed.
like, well, if I can't, and this is a business owner mindset too. Like, well, if I can't do it 100%, then I can't do it.
Yeah.
Like it's not,
Yeah.
I can't do it. That's not, the trying is the meditating.
It is meditation.
It's like, okay, I have like this, like when I close my eyes, there's like this depth of vision. There's like real close, and people who meditate a lot will know what I'm saying. There's like, sometimes you can see like literally the back of your eyelids, and then there's kind of like a mid-range, and then when you really start to settle, there's like a longer range in that darkness. And I know that when I get to that longer range, I'm like, okay, I'm there. And then when I notice that I'm there, my brain's like, oh, so now we can like mess with you and we'll give you something to think about.
Yeah.
So you think about it, and then I get lost in the thought and, oh, how much longer do I have on this meditation? How much longer is it? And like, you want to peek at the thing, but I'm like, don't peek. And I'm like, why are you thinking about the time? You decided you know how much time it is. You chose it and you want this for yourself. So get back to it.
Yep.
And then you get back to it. And then you're quiet for a minute, and then your elbow's itchy. And then you're like, I shouldn't itch it. If I itch it, I'm not meditating. And then, have you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's usually my feet.
My foot, my nose. Yeah. Nothing itches until the second you have to sit still. Everything's
and then when you
itchy.
think about it itching, everything itches.
And then everything itches, and then you're like, what do I have to do after this? And oh my God, I wonder how many voicemails I'm gonna have, and what am I gonna have for dinner? And oh crap, I forgot to take the turkey out of the freezer, and all these things. And then, but the second you recognize, I'm thinking about stuff, and I don't need to be thinking about it right now, and you just take that deep breath and come back in. It doesn't matter how many times you do that. That's meditation.
Yeah. Or even if you don't do that, right? Like sometimes I get into meditation and, you know, you're a business owner just like I am, where my head is everywhere. And like usually when I am sitting around like in the recliner in the morning, like I have my notes app, right? And as things bubble up like that, right, I just take my note, right? So sometimes I have a hard time in meditation where like, you know, I get into the moment and then I start thinking about things I got to get done. Then I'm like, oh shit, I got to write that down or I'm going to forget.
I have left mid-meditation. I have stopped. I don't want to admit that.
I have too.
Oh, it's so bad.
But it's like, but again, then it's like, you know, you're thinking about these things. I got to do this. Oh shit, I never called this person back. I got to call them. And like, you're almost trying to talk yourself out of getting out of meditation. And then, and like you said, you kind of catch yourself, right? You let all these things bubble up to the surface. And then it's like, all right. And I always tell myself, listen, give yourself fucking 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Just give yourself 10 minutes.
It can be 5. Start with 5.
If it goes 30, great. If it goes 5, fine. Give yourself the time. You know, so that's what I do is I talk myself out of it. And then it's right back to just focusing on my breath to try and get back to not thinking about all of those things. And there's some days, man, I get in, like, as I do a lot of my meditations in the sauna, I'll get in the sauna and I'm like fucking zoned in and I'm like a Buddhist monk with meditation, right?
Yeah.
Have this great meditation session and then I have a hard time like wanting to get out of it, right? Like I just feel so good, like I can feel everything and it just feels so good and I feel so relaxed and I'm like, I don't want this to ever end. And then literally the next day it'll be like, God, is this done yet? Like I can't.
That's how I feel in yoga. So yoga is something I would also recommend.
Yeah. Do you have a not a recommendation, but like a specific type of yoga that you like better than others?
So I'm a lifelong athlete. So I like the hardest yoga that you can find. I have a really crazy handstand kind of inversion practice. I love a nice power flow. I like my breath to be connected to my movement. That's where the meditation piece of yoga is. And there are tons of studies on yoga, healing trauma, healing mental illness, helping with addiction. Yoga is life. I'm currently enrolled in my 200-hour teacher training, so I will be teaching yoga this summer starting, so I'm super excited. But it's breath and movement. So you're inhaling your arms up, and you're exhaling and folding down, and you're inhaling and you're exhaling. And it's moving meditation.
Yep.
Because you're focused on what you're doing and your mind will wander a little bit, but it's forced to come back because the next move is being called and you have to stay with the flow and you have to stay with the class. And I love a heated class.
Me too.
I sweat. We need to do a class. You and I were going to
put
something on the schedule. But I like movement, but there's all kinds of yoga. There's slower yoga. There's yoga for beginners. There's yin, where you literally get on bolsters and pillows and you just melt into the pillows. I get a lot of pushback, mostly from men who are like, I'm not flexible enough to do yoga. And I'm like, you're not flexible enough because you don't do it.
Right. It's a practice.
It's
just
a practice.
Like meditation.
And we don't all start, we all start flexible, but we lose it in our adolescence if we don't keep it.
Right.
But I'll tell you, it is a great thing to do for yourself. Just start once a week. The first bunch of classes are hard because you're going to be sore, but then you start to see your body change.
Yeah.
You start to feel stronger. You're like, oh, I couldn't do that last week. Yep. And also, what a great way to connect with your wife, your partner, your children. Like, I know a lot of women who are like, oh my God, if my husband went to yoga with me, it'd be like so romantic. Or like they would be so excited, something you can do together. So
it's good for you.
It's good for you and it's good for your partnership.
Yeah.
And going back to the meditation, I love guided meditations. Sometimes I can sit in silence, and I challenge myself to do that as somebody with ADD who speaks like 17,000 words a minute. I challenge myself to sit in silence. But I started with guided meditation because it keeps you there. And they'll say, and your mind might start to wander, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Just bring it back. You're doing great.
Yeah.
Or meditate. We're not trying to clear your mind.
Right.
We're trying to have you be an observer of your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. Step out and just watch your thoughts like clouds rolling through the sky. And you're like, oh my God, that's so true.
Yeah.
Who you are, who you are spiritually, like the essence of your being is not your thoughts. Your brain is made to protect you. Your brain is creating thoughts all the time. How many hundreds of thousands of pieces of information? That's a tree, that's a light. Okay, I'm safe right now. That car's yet not that close. I'm not going to get hit. It's just constantly bombarding you with information without you having to do anything at all. So that's not really you.
Yeah.
That's just autopilot. You maybe don't get to choose all the thoughts that come into your head, but you get to choose the ones that you pay attention to. You get to choose the ones that you put time into, the ones that you believe. And if you just sit back for a minute and just sit there for 5 minutes and just observe your thoughts.
Yeah.
Don't even be upset that they came. Sometimes I'm like, how the hell did I get that one? And then I like try to backtrack and I'm like, no, we're not backtracking. We're just like, you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
That's meditation.
Yeah.
And then I also love breath work.
And it can be frustrating, you know, like, and I feel like that is the part that like shuts a lot of people off from meditation is because they get frustrated. They think that they're supposed to just be able to sit down and be a Buddhist monk and like have everything figured out. But it's like anything else. Like the more you do it, the more you practice it, the easier it becomes, the better you I wouldn't say the better you get at it, but the easier that it is.
The more you notice the benefits in your life.
Yeah.
I haven't necessarily gotten better at meditating. I've gotten more consistent because I've seen changes in myself. I've learned how to pause. The pause is a huge thing that people need to learn, which is not being reactive, but being responsive.
Yeah.
Taking a breath and how do I want this to go? How do I want this to come across? If an employee says something that really pisses you off or a customer sends a really nasty email and you just immediately get right on the keyboard, like learning to like settle into it first.
Yeah.
It has been huge, and I know meditation's been a part of that. And then breath work I like breath work more than meditation. Breath work is a type of meditation. But when I'm doing box breathing, for example, inhale 5 counts, hold 5, exhale 5, hold 5. I'm counting. I'm focused on the counting.
Yep.
I'm focused on the feeling of the air moving through my nose. But I'm focused on the counting, and that literally blocks my brain from pretty much anything else. Stuff will creep in, but then you start the exhale count.
Yep.
And it kind of, and box breathing, triangle breathing, Wim Hof is a great method as well. So if anybody...
I took a Wim Hof course. It was awesome.
Yeah, I love it. So even if there's the Insight Timer app that I really like. It's free. There's Headspace, that's free. And then YouTube. I know you like YouTube.
Yeah, I get on YouTube. I have a couple of people that I follow on there. Pura Rasa is one of them. She's awesome. There's this guy, Jason Stevenson. He's the one that actually got me into meditation. Because when I first started it, I just would Google, I'd go on YouTube and look up meditation for beginners or guided meditation for beginners. And what I loved about Jason Stevenson was like, he was the one that actually made me realize how to meditate, like what the process of that is and what it's going to look like. And like, what the purpose is, and like what I like about his is that like a lot of the times he kind of takes you on a journey, right? Like, so for me, like I love audiobooks. Like I don't watch TV. I don't really sit down and watch movies. Like if I'm home and I'm trying to relax or if I'm going to bed at night, I listen to an audiobook.
What are you listening to right now?
I listen to a lot of like
The world wants to know.
CIA, like military, like, assassins and that type of stuff. I've always loved that shit. Like and it talks a lot, like the books that I listen to, the author is very educated in military tactics and firearms and like explosives. And so like when they talk about an area, right, like these guys are in this area in Bangladesh, they actually research that area. He's on 4th Street. There's a building on the left that's tall and yellow. Like,
so you're like in a war movie.
In a war, yeah,
in
pretty
the
much a
book.
war movie. Yeah.
I'm currently on book 4 of Game of Thrones
Oh shit.
because my boyfriend told me I was not allowed ever again to say how much I liked the show until I read all the books.
How's the books?
Way better than the show.
No shit.
Although book 4 is a lot of plot setting and character development,
Yeah.
not as much action.
The slow ones.
But listen, I'm about 150 hours in. So I'm just going to do it. And then
Yeah.
I've got book 5, and then the guy's going to die before the last book gets written anyway. So I'm just doing it to say so that I can say I listened to or I read all of the Game of Thrones.
Yeah, the audiobooks are like my thing. So like when I do the meditations, what I like about some of Jason Stevenson's is like he'll take you to a place to meditate. So you'd be like, all right, you're on this beach and there's this cave, and then you go in this cave and you walk down this staircase, and he talks about how the stairs feel and how the air feels.
Yes.
And then he takes you to this place, and then he does his meditation. And like, so you're meditating kind
I'm
of from
totally
that
looking
place.
him up. That's perfect for people
I
who
love
have
it.
super busy brains.
Yeah.
Because you can stay with it.
Yeah,
You can,
yeah.
that's
and it's like
fantastic.
taking you on a journey, and taking you on the journey is helping you to focus and get into that meditative
Yeah, because
state.
you're not in all the millions of things that you're
Right.
in. You're choosing where you're focusing. That's what meditation is.
Yep.
It's a choice of focus.
Yep.
It's wonderful.
Now, do you think that, like I always say, like I used to do jigsaw puzzles all the time, like that's meditative, because
Yeah.
you're like, you got a piece, you're looking for the piece, you're trying to fit, you're focused on one thing.
Yeah.
Do you consider that to be
That's
meditative?
absolutely. So I consider myself a spiritual person. If I were to have a religion or follow a religion, it would be Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
I've been getting kind of deep into that realm, and they talk about the walking meditation. When you're walking, anytime you can, walk barefoot and feel every step, every piece of contact of your foot with the ground, and for a minute or so, feel your feet, and then start adding in sound. So I can feel my feet, and I can hear the wind through the leaves. I can hear the bird, and I can still feel my feet. And then I can feel my feet. I can hear the birds, and I can feel the wind on my skin. And you're just completely present in your body, completely present on your walk, just not talking, not listening to a podcast. I think we have this habit of constantly having something in our ears and being able to just be present with what is.
Yep.
That's meditative. They say if you're going to wash the dishes, just wash the dishes. Grab the dish, wash the dish, rinse the dish.
Yeah.
Wash the dish, rinse the dish.
I have-
Just be with the dishes. Don't be angry because I have to do the dishes and I can't believe I have to do this and my wife should have been. I asked my teenagers to do this and they didn't. And you're going down this rabbit hole and just wash the dish.
Makes sense. I had
Anything
somebody
you
tell
do
me-
can be meditative.
I had somebody tell me that they meditate in the shower. And what they do, like when they get in the shower, they shut their mind off and they focus on what they're doing in the shower. Like, oh, I'm washing my hair. And it's like, how's that smell? And like, how's the water feel?
That
and
is
like,
exactly what the Buddhist practice says, that
Interesting.
life is a meditation. And all meditation is presence, being present, being mindful of what you're doing. That's it. That's all meditation is.
Yeah.
But we're so wrapped up in a million things all the time that we can't be mindful of what we're doing because we're already 5 hours ahead at what we have to do later.
Yep.
And your work could be meditative. If you put on like some 520 hertz or something in the background and you're writing emails and there's nothing else going on and you are just focused on that one email and you're not judging yourself about how you wrote the email, you're not judging your response, you're not, don't go down the rabbit hole of feelings of all of these things, but just be present with what you're doing. That's meditative.
Interesting.
But there's a lot of judgment of the things that we do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. That inner dialogue is just absolutely insane.
I talk to her. We have words.
Do you have a name?
I mean, I have a couple people in there. I used to think I feel like I'm 2 people. And then someone was like, only 2. And I was like, actually, there's like a lot of people in there. But that's what makes me. And I didn't start this. I've always felt like an alien from outer space. Like I'd always look around and be like, what is going on? Even when I was little, my teachers used to tell my parents, like, she's smart. She's like smart, but like not present smart. She's like somewhere else smart. Like they couldn't figure out what it was. I always felt very out of body. And then when I was 34, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I had already had a long yoga practice, but my yoga practice was more physical. It was like exercise. And I had dabbled in meditation, was never really good at it, didn't keep it up. But when I got diagnosed with cancer and did my treatment and realized that I was going to be okay, I completely changed the way that I saw the world. The things that were important to me, how I spoke to people, what I wanted to do, how I wanted to live my life, who I wanted to be as a person, how I wanted people to feel about me, like it just completely changed. That's when I started really getting into yoga on a spiritual level, started reading on Buddhism, started a meditation practice, breath work, plant medicine, really just going down the rabbit hole of learning about who I am, learning about the world, learning about other people, and pulling my head out of my ass, basically, because so many people are just walking around literally heads up asses,
Yeah.
like just completely blind to what the world really is. And this is where I really was hoping the podcast would go, because I think a lot of people are genuinely unhappy. And they put this face on of like, yeah, I'm a business owner and it's great and I'm happy, but they're not happy. And that's because everyone has a baseline happiness. We all have a baseline. And they call this the happiness, it's like called like the happiness baseline theory or the hedonic treadmill. I was telling you about
That's
this.
what you said there earlier.
Yeah, the hedonic treadmill. So basically, based on genetics, based on your experience growing up, the atmosphere you grew up in, a bunch of factors, you have a baseline happiness. Some people's higher than others. And basically, no matter what amazing things happen to you or super traumatic things, you will always eventually come back to this baseline. So, for example, you get a promotion at work. You're like super stoked. Like, yeah, this is amazing. My life's going to change. It's going to be so great. And you get into the position and yeah, it's great. Couple weeks, couple months, it becomes the new norm.
Yep.
And you're back to that baseline. Or you go through a breakup. It's the worst thing that ever happened to you. I'll never be the same. I'll never trust anyone again. I'm never going to love again. And it's just the most physically, like, gutturally painful thing. But you love again. And you smile again. And life goes on because you come back to your baseline. There's this, like, some people look at it as a bar. Like, I'll be happy when I get to this place. Then you get to that place, you level off, and you're like, I'll be happy when. And you have to keep upping the ante. You'll never get there because the bar will keep getting raised. Or
Right.
you'll never get there because you're always going to come back to that baseline. So the question is, how do we raise our baseline? And that is through meditation, breath work, and being present, which all leads to gratitude. We all just have to be way more grateful for what we have. If you wake up in the morning, what a joy, what a privilege to wake up. I woke up tired. I woke up not in a mansion. I woke up and stepped on a dog toy. I woke up and my back hurt. You woke up, and some people didn't.
Yep.
Well, I have these employees and they're just, you have employees. What a privilege to own a business and to have employees. It's like really take a step back, and this is where meditation can come in. Be the observer of your experience and what you have. If you can truly be grateful for what you have right now, you won't necessarily need more. And I'm not one that would tell people don't set goals. If you want to be a gazillionaire, great. You probably still won't be happy when you get there. I'm just saying.
Well, very few will be,
Yeah.
for sure.
Because you haven't learned to be grateful for what you have. So if you can be super grateful, then the next thing that comes along, you're like, oh, what a pleasure.
Yeah.
What a joy. And then the next thing, and you just keep adding to it. So I think we all need to have the attitude of gratitude.
Yeah.
We need to practice that. And that can slowly start to increase your baseline to feel a lot more joy, and also redefining success.
Yeah.
Think like as a business owner, if I were to ask you as a business owner, what's success to you?
Success to me, not a very money motivated person. So success to me is building like a good, efficient company that continues to grow and continues to provide for the employees and their families. I love that the business that I've built is able to help other people like feed their families, pay their mortgages, buy a new house. I love that. I love that I've been able to create that. And in turn, like I've been able to do that for myself, right? Like being successful and doing what I've done in business. I've been able to, put my youngest son in a boarding school, and my oldest son went to college, and we got to travel and have all these great experiences together. So success for me is like freedom and, that support of like helping everybody that has helped grow the company.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, when you ask them what success is, it's like doing 5 million a year,
Yeah.
or being able to take a vacation twice a year, or having a certain amount of money when you retire, or being able to pay for my kids' college. It's all very like things that you can check off,
Yeah.
right? I wrote a list, and I forgot my notebook, right? But I had written a list of like, if I were to say I am a successful person, not even business person, we're people first and foremost. What does that look like for me? For me, it's having a regulated nervous system, being able to stay calm under pressure, having a healthy relationship with my partner, having time to spend with my kids and the people I love, getting 8 hours of sleep, being physically fit, making people laugh, being a safe space for friends to tell me things, feeling like the people I love really, truly know who I am. Those things to me are success.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's this super focus on money and building your business. And I want people to build their businesses because you're benefiting employees and you're benefiting the economy. And like, it's super important. But I think there's this whole missing piece in business, which is balance and like setting boundaries around your work hours. Because to me, if I know in the beginning you have to work a lot to build a business, and that's fine, but you should very quickly try to set boundaries. I don't answer the phone after this time. I don't check emails after this time. Because if your husband or wife is resentful of you for all of the hours that you work, you are not successful. If your children don't know who you are, if you miss all of their games, if you miss their recitals, if you miss their school play, you're not successful.
Yeah. Regardless of how much money you have
Regardless of how much money you make.
Agreed.
Your kids will not remember how big the house was or whatever. They're going to remember the time that you spent with them.
Yep.
So for me, like, I think we need to start just looking at success a little bit differently, because when you start to do that, you go, okay, well, what do I need to do to repair my relationship with my spouse? And maybe it is set boundaries. Maybe we do a yoga class together. Maybe we, there's some awesome couples meditations. There's like things that you can do that will benefit you as a human being. It will benefit your partner. And I think when you are in a really good place personally, you show up as a better leader. You're a better business person. When you get enough sleep, you can handle the stress of the job much better. And I think if you put in 80 hours a week, but you're super stressed out, you're not enjoying life, you're not taking time for yourself, I actually think you're going to be less productive than if you did like 40 or 50 hours, but you took care of all of those other things. I think it's like super important.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the perspective comes from having that perspective. You almost have to like experience, I don't want to say death, but like you have to experience loss. And like you dealing with the cancer stuff, for me, it was, I've buried a lot of friends and family. It really helps to kind of put things into perspective and makes you understand like what's important in life. I was able to build my business so that I could be more flexible to spend time with the boys, right? Super important to me. I worked a lot, don't get me wrong, but like I never missed a game. I never missed anything. Like I've been to everything,
But were you doing things for yourself at the same time?
Yep, of course. Hiking is a big thing for me, getting into meditation.
Perfect.
Like, I've been able to balance it pretty good, but, obviously there's always room for improvement, right? Like right now things are busy with work. So I'm working a lot more than I have over the past couple of years. But it's I have to right now. But I also took 2 weekends ago, I took 4 days off, got a cabin up in the woods, went ice climbing, went snowshoeing. Like,
Cool.
I make sure that I do take that time. I went down last weekend. My son was starting his first college lacrosse game, like under the lights at home. Couldn't miss it. I fucking found out Wednesday. I flew down Friday, and then I flew home Saturday for a meeting in the afternoon. Like,
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
but like because those things are super important to me. If I don't have that, like I'd be a fucking mess, So like, but I found that because like I had to, like back was against the wall. It was either that or fucking die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and people, I think, so there'll be a lot of people who are listening who go, well, I do work a lot, but I go to all their games and I do this and I do that. And so it's like work and taking care of other people.
Yeah.
But again, if you're not taking care of yourself,
Yep.
you cannot pour from an empty glass, right? There's that saying, and I used to hate it, but now, older and wiser, you're like, oh, I totally understand that. Mommy needs to go to yoga, okay? Because her glass is empty and she needs to pour later.
Yep.
But I think it's like everybody is doing their best, right? They're like, I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. I think your best is what you can do without taking away from yourself.
Yeah.
If you're losing sleep, if you're adding stress, if you're hearing yourself say negative things to yourself, if you're having a lot of doubts, if you're, not healthy, not feeling good physically, winded going up the stairs because you haven't been to the gym in, a couple of years, that's not doing your best.
Yeah.
That's like taking away from you. The best is what you can do, like, while you're still 100%. And I hear this all the time, like, and you'll hear this, like, I've done a lot of couples therapy. You got to give 100% of what you have to give. And sometimes that's only 40%. I had 40% to give. I gave 40%. I gave my 100%.
Yep.
So if you meditate in the morning instead of getting up and sending those emails, like, sure, you're going to send a few less emails, but you're filling that tank closer and closer and closer to 100% for yourself, so that the stuff that you do that's work related is that much more efficient and will
better quality.
Better quality and that much more satisfying because you're coming from a much healthier place.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point in my life, like I need that time. I go to the gym almost every day. I get in the sauna almost every day at this point.
I was up at 4.
Yeah, me too. Well, it was actually earlier than that, but
I slept in.
we have a puppy now, so it's fucking terrorist.
I have 3 of those.
Fucking terrorist. Dude, 4 months old, like that dog, anything that moves, it eats. Like
What kind of dog?
half pit bull, half German shepherd.
I have 3 dogs, and one of them's a Mexican hairless, and she's a primitive breed, so she's never going to do what you want her to do. She hasn't been bred for thousands of years to, like, please her master. She's 6,000 years genetically untrained. She doesn't give a shit about what you want. And she's naked, and we call her small dog. That's
yeah,
weird.
I don't know. I love her to death. Like, she's so cute. Like, so we have this ritual in the morning, like, because I get up early and I have my coffee, and that's my time, right? No phone. I open the curtains. I just kind of stare outside. I drink my coffee, and like that's my time in the morning. And I get her up. I bring her out, and then she sits in between my legs on the recliner and either chews on me or sleeps, but she comes over. She licks my face. She licks my head. She eats my ears. Like, it's just like we have this cool little thing. But there are some fucking days, man.
Where you wake up and she shit on the floor.
Yeah, I think it was like it's 2 days ago. Was it yesterday or the day before? I think it was the day before yesterday. I got home. I flew home from work. I had to grab her because she had been in the kennel for a couple hours, and I fucking hate that thing. So like I grabbed her, and I had to go to Kingston, our logistics location, to open and inspect some cabinets that came in. And, it's like the second time or third time they've been replaced. So I told the builder, I'll go and inspect them. Bring her to the fucking warehouse with me, and like styrofoam, wood chips.
Styrofoam's their favorite.
Fucking anything she could eat. And I was like, I am going to fucking murder you. So I ended up tying her up to the fucking garage door so that she couldn't move.
And she just choked herself the whole time.
I swept everything away from her so she couldn't so I get my shit done. I bring her home, and I swear to God, we weren't home for more than 3 minutes. I go in the bedroom because I get home, take my boots off. I go in the bedroom, put my sweatpants on. I come walking out of the bedroom, and I'm like, fuck is she? She's in the fucking living room eating a loofah.
Oh, but they're crunchy.
I'm like, where the fuck did you even get that? Like, I don't even know where it came from.
Okay.
She's eating it. And I'm like, we're done. Put her in her crate. I'm like, I got to take a few minutes before I fucking throw you
And
outside.
stuff like that, like the added stress of pets. I have 3 dogs. I have 2 standard poodles, and I have a Xoloscuintle, which is a Mexican hairless dog. So if you've seen the movie Coco,
Can you spell that?
Xoloscuintle. Can you use that in a sentence?
S-H-O
No, it's
Lequinske.
no, Cuintle. Xoloitzcuintle.
Can I chime in? That's going to be like a 100-point word on those Wordle
Fucking
things.
Scrabble.
Yeah.
Xoloscuintle.
XO.
John, can you just double check her spelling on that?
Yeah,
for me?
Google it.
I'll get back to you on that.
Xolo. Yeah, I got it right the first time. So, in the past, which is a great way to start sentences, like, oh, I always do this thing. That's just making you do it more, right? So, in the past, I used to get really frustrated with the dogs because I'd already be tired. I wasn't getting enough sleep. I was still getting up early because fitness has always been a super important part of my life. So I would lose sleep to make sure I could go to the gym. I don't do that anymore. I get at least 7 hours. 7 hours is like my minimum. So I used to get like really frustrated if one of the dogs had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night because sometimes the small dog, she's small. She's just small. Sometimes she has to pee at like 2, because she went to. I go to bed at like 8, 7:30. So she goes out to pee at 7:30, 2 a.m. She's like, bro, I gotta go. So the other night, and I was super proud of myself. You'll love this story. She wakes me up. She does one of these with her front paws. She like punches you, and then she punches you, and then she does a double punch. And you're like, what? And she's like, and you're like, okay, we'll go pee. So I throw the robe on. I go outside. I turn the barn light on. I open the slider. I let her out. And I'm like, well, I'll go pee too. So I walk into the hallway. There's like my daughter's door, my son's door, the bathroom in the downstairs. And there's like a sock on the floor. And my daughter's door was open. So I go to like kick the sock into her room, and I like did like the scoop to like fling it. It wasn't a sock. It was a pile of throw up.
Oh.
And it was cold. I would have preferred it warm, honestly. It was not fresh. So not only did I kick it, I scoop kicked it, and I flung it all over the wall in the hallway. So I just looked at it, and I was just like, I just kicked throw up. And so I just grabbed the paper towels, and I was laughing, and I cleaned it up, and I brought the dog back in. And my boyfriend rolled over because he woke up, and I was like, bro, you'll never guess what I just kicked. And that was it. In the past, I would have been furious.
Yeah.
I would have been really angry. I would have gone out and said, this fucking dog, I don't know why we got her. But now, like, meditating and pausing and getting enough sleep and having more gratitude, I have a dog. I have a home. I have beautiful hardwood floors that throw up was on. Oh, beautiful floors.
Used really good paint so I could clean it off the wall.
I used
really well.
eggshell washable paint. Okay. I love my eggshell paint. And then she snuggled with me in bed, and I was like grateful to have a yard that's fenced in so that I don't have to go outside with her. Like, it all comes down to just take a second and just be a little more grateful for what we have, because it's not that bad.
Yeah. Could always be worse.
It could. I'll tell you.
For sure. Kind of just a touch base again on the yoga side of things. Obviously, yoga is more of a woman thing at this point, but I feel like men are getting more and more into it.
It was started by men.
I know.
It used to be all masculine yogis, like in India and that kind of Middle Eastern region. And then it became a woman's thing when, it was like, oh, we can get toned, like, by the way, toned is my least favorite fitness word. We can do a whole podcast on that.
That's a hard sell for most guys, right? And I think that, like, I've done a bunch of yoga. I was doing Bikram for a while, and I found it and I love it. I don't make enough time for it, and I always say that I'm going to start, but I haven't yet. But I will get there because my body felt so much better, especially for hiking, especially mentally. Like it has so many benefits. But it's intimidating, right? Like, to walk into a class that's mostly women, and to do something you've never done. And most of us aren't flexible. Like, I'm not a flexible person. I was getting better at it, but like, I'm not flexible. You know, you're not really flexible. You're not able to really do the moves and the movements the way that the teacher's doing them, or that like the woman in front of you is doing them that's been doing it for 30 years. So it's like it's intimidating. But I feel like I've never been to a yoga class, and I've actually bounced around quite a bit because like I'm one of those people that like I love to explore. Like, I want to try different yogas. I want to go to this person's class, and I want to do this. You know, I've never been in a class where I felt as though as that like I was not welcome, or like, you know, kind of like the black sheep in the room. You know, everybody's just there and in their own space and practicing at their own will.
And a lot of studios, it's really dark. The lights are
Dark, yeah.
super dim.
Yep. I love hot yoga. Like, I feel like the warm yoga is the best. You sweat a little bit, and like, it's
I
hard.
sweat a lot. I have to bring a change of clothes because I realized my car started smelling like a locker room, and I couldn't figure out why. And it's because of the copious amounts of sweat that was like being absorbed into
Yeah.
the seat. So make sure you bring a change of clothes.
Yeah.
Our
I
studio
learned that
has a little
lesson,
like
too.
thing with plastic bags. You can like put your wet clothes in the bag.
Yep.
But for people who want to go around here, like a couple of plugs, you know, like Hadasana in Newburyport, solid. My girl
Yep.
Crystal teaches there. She's like one of my favorites, but
I
she's
think I met her. I
she's
think she
challenging.
came to our BNI group once.
Crystal McDonald.
Yeah.
She's lovely. She teaches there, and she teaches at Hadasana. There's a Hadasana in Hampstead. There's a Hadasana in Derry. There's Unity up in Derry, I think outside of Derry. If you're in the Exeter area, there's Humble Warrior up in Manchester. Just look up hot yoga, hot flow.
Yep.
There are places everywhere. And let me tell you that the classes I go to, there's a lot of guys in those classes. And sometimes you see these super buff guys, and I mean, man, those poor guys, they can barely move, but they are getting into it. They are doing their
Trying,
very
yeah.
best. They're sweat. And I'm not thinking like, oh, look at that guy who can't like do that. I'm like, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Look at you. Good
Yeah.
job. And also remember, and this is what my mom used to tell me all the time, because I'm like, oh my God, everybody's going to be looking at me. And she'd go, you're not that important.
I love that.
Like, do you think the world revolves around you? And I feel like I'm in the Truman Show sometimes. Like, everybody's watching me. What is she doing now?
Right.
Oh, look, she's touching her toes. Oh, she slipped. Oh, everybody watch. They're not watching. They're there for themselves.
And trying
They're-
to figure out their own shit.
They're in there. They're figuring out their own shit. They're in their own meditation. They're doing their own task list for later.
Right.
Like, you don't matter.
Yeah.
So just don't be afraid. Try it out.
Yep. And one of the things that I learned is like I like to go kind of towards the back of the room, or I like to have somebody in front of me that you could tell is like has been doing it for a while. Because for me, like, you know, again, listening to like a instructor, teacher, whatever you call it.
Yeah, because they don't do the class with you.
They don't
They're
do the
just
class,
calling
right?
it out.
And they call it out. So like I like to, and you know, you try not to be a creep or anything, but I like to like make sure that like, make sure I'm doing that right, and like trying to get the pose right and that type of stuff. So like I always try and find somebody who seems like a yogi that I can be near, so that I can be like, all right, I'm doing it right. You know, what would you say is like a good beginner yoga to try?
So, there's all different kinds of yoga.
I know that's a tough.
Yeah,
pose,
most of the
isn't it?
yogas that are around here that are hot yoga are going to be either like a Baptiste style or a Baptiste Ashtanga kind of mix. But you're going to want to go to a slow flow, or you're going to want to go to a gentle flow. Start with something like that. If they have a back to basics class, start with some of the easier ones. Do those for a few weeks, few months. When you get a little more confident, work into the power flows, work into like the advanced stuff. Try it.
Yeah.
Even if you're not advanced, go see. You might surprise yourself at what you're actually capable of doing, and you won't know unless you try. And also, most places you can take privates with their teachers.
Yep.
So maybe what you do is you go in and try a class. If you think, oh, you know what, I can figure this out, that's not that bad, go for it. If you find like it was really challenging, or you're really confused, or you're like, you know, kind of getting in your head, do a couple of privates.
Yeah.
They'll literally walk you through the poses. They'll put you in proper alignment. This is the name of this pose. This is what you should be thinking about when you're doing it.
Yeah.
Do a couple of those. Then when you go back into class, you'll be like, it just all falls into place.
Yeah, and what I have found is that like most of them, not all the instructors, but most of them, like, so what when I started going, Lisa Wilkins is a friend of mine. She's the one that introduced me to like doing Bikram, and she used to teach a class. So like I would go down and do her classes. And then what I would do is like at the end of the class, if there was one thing that like I wasn't sure about, I'd be like, hey, I was doing this, like, is this right? Like, you know what I mean? And like, what I love about the yoga community is that like everybody wants you to be better. So it's like you can ask anyone, you can ask the instructor.
Super supportive.
They just want you to be better at it because everybody that gets into being an instructor for yoga wants to help other people find that path.
That's
You know
why
what I
I'm
mean?
getting into it. I mean, I have basic certifications, but I'm doing like a very in-depth certification. I mean, I've taught yoga for like 15 or 20 years. And it's a joyful experience to watch other people improve.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny because like I remember my first class, like I signed up for a 90-minute Bikram and like hot yoga,
And you
I
got into like one of the harder. I'm not a huge fan of Bikram. I don't like locking out my knees.
I loved Bikram and I liked it because it was so fucking hard. Like for
I'm
me,
gonna get you to one of my classes. You're coming right. You and I are setting a date.
I'm
You
in.
want hard? I got you.
I just like trying to hold some of those poses and like I'm like. Everybody in this, there's like an old lady next to me that's no problem, right? And I'm over here like shaking, like trying to stay in this pose. I'm like,
Guys think it's a
insane.
girly workout.
It's not.
That's like Pilates.
Yeah.
You tried Pilates?
No,
That'll rock your
I've
world.
Seen Pilates. Oh no, wait. So the funny story is I did a 90-minute Bikram and then I did a 60-minute or 30 or 45-minute Pilates after.
Oh yeah, that's a no.
It was like, of course, for me, it was like a challenge. They're like, oh, you want to try this too? I'm like, I can do that, no problem, And then I did it. I'm like, what the fuck was I doing?
Talk about shaking.
Yeah.
That'll be a no from me, Bob.
I was in rough shape, yeah. But yeah, good workout. Just feels so good. Like when I leave the yoga studio, that feeling, like my body just feels so relaxed and my mind feels relaxed. And I'm just like, oh, it's hard while you do it. But like, when you're done, it's just like a different feeling.
Especially for people who sit in the office all day, sit at a desk, drive a lot. It's really important. And then I have a lot of guys who are like, I don't need that. I work out. I lift weights. Well, I lift weights too. I'm a former pro power lifter and pro bodybuilder.
Yeah.
I have 1,000-pound total. I can lift some shit. But I didn't get injured, and I had a really great career in that because I did yoga, because I did stability work, mobility, ton of mobility work, and I've always done yoga as a complement. So if you're only lifting weights, you have a whole part of your body that you're not working.
For sure.
And eventually you won't be able to wipe your own ass.
Yeah.
And so yoga's important.
It's
for
completely
that.
different. Like, I'm
For independence in old age, do
Right.
yoga.
I feel like, the gym is good. For me, I crave the gym. I like going, I like getting stronger. I like for me, it's a good way for me to just kind of blow off some steam and I get a little work done while I'm there. I'm creative. Like it helps get my creative workforce kind of going. Yoga is just different. Like it's like slowing you down instead of speeding you up, So it's like, and then the movement that you get out of it and like the strength that you get out of it. Cause like you would think like I go to the gym, I hike, like I climb mountains. Like you would think like I'm so strong. And then I go to yoga and I'm like, wow, I am a pussy.
Yoga is mastery of the self.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm so attracted to it, because I want to be great in business. I want to be great at what I do, but I also want to be a great friend. I want to be a great partner. I want to be a great yogi. I want to be, good and put 100% of what I have available into the things that I do. And so when I started really doing yoga, it used to be very performative. It was, I used to go to the front of the class all the time because I want everybody to see how great I am at yoga. Now I go kind of in the middle and I just blend in with everybody. I don't want to see my body in the mirror because all I'm going to do is pick myself apart and this little roll hanging over my pants and oh my God, I look fat. It's a girl thing. I think it's a guy thing too.
That's a human thing.
So I don't want to be in the mirror anymore. I go in the middle. I don't want to see what I look like. I want to feel. I want to feel what I look like. I want to feel the poses. I don't want to pay attention to myself. So it went from a very performative, very kind of show off, show people what I can do to showing myself what I can do. And I've gotten really deep into my handstand practice and inversions and controlling, like doing like kind of acrobatic type balances that takes so much grit and so much willpower and so much dedication to continue to do the drills, the boring stuff to get your body to do that. Like yoga has so many facets to it. Like you can pick something really easy, or if you're somebody who's in shape, if you're a fit guy, if you're already a gym guy, you could actually do some absolutely crazy things that you never thought your body would be capable of doing. So I love that part of yoga. It's self-reflection, and it causes you to just know who you are.
Yeah.
And that's super important as a business owner. That's super important as a boss, as a leader, to be able to slow things down and be present with yourself and trust in your body and trust in your brain. And I think that yoga has
Yeah.
the title of this podcast is just going to be Yoga for Business
Yoga
Owners.
for business owners. I think it's beneficial for anybody. Especially again, talking blue collar and these guys and women that are putting their body through hell for years. Like yoga has such a good way of healing those things and making you more, even if you don't go to the gym, even if you're just do a yoga practice a couple days a week, like the difference you would feel in your body, regardless of how beat up and banged up you are, is pretty impressive.
Did you hear, I can't do that? Oh, my knees wouldn't do that. My back is already messed up. You have those problems because you are not using your body in a different way other than the work that you do every day. It's like repetitive injury.
Yep.
You will feel better.
Oh,
Your
for
knees
sure.
will feel better. Your
For
back
sure.
will feel better.
Yep, I agree with that completely. So yeah, man, I guess that's about it. I think we're running up against it, John. Where are we at time-wise?
An hour and 20 minutes.
Hour 20. God, you took so fucking long.
I didn't even get to my crazy story from Monday.
Crazy story from Monday?
Yeah, I saved someone's life on Monday.
Oh, I got to hear
We
that.
got to hear that, yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to name any names because, well, anybody who watches this who knows me personally is, But
Nobody watches it. Just my mom.
Okay. Hi, Mom. My mom died 2 years ago, so she's watching from heaven. Hey, she shows up in my meditation sometimes.
Hi, Mom.
Hey, Mom. Someone that I love dearly was going through a breakup, and their partner didn't take it very well and threatened to kill himself. So she asked me to come and help out. So he's walking through the yard with a rope, trying to find a tree. Well, I have pines, so
Good luck.
there's no low branches.
Right.
So I was like, listen, she got him back into the house. They were talking. I was like, listen, I have to go to work. It was like 8 o'clock on Monday. It's like, I got to go to work. She was like, all right, well, I'll call you. And I was like, just talk to him, keep him there. If something happens, call the cops. So I leave for work. Not even 10 minutes later. I'm like halfway to work. She calls me and she says, he's across the street and he found a branch and he's tying the rope. And I was like, I'll be right there. So I called the cops and I told them what was going on and I came over there. I'm thinking that she's going to be talking to him, whatever, but she froze. And so she's standing on one side of the street and he's across the street. So I got there and I pulled in and I was on a call with somebody, so I didn't get out of the car right away. But he was already hanging. So I get off the phone and I walk over and she's like, what do I do? And I'm like, well, I'll go talk to him. And as I start to get closer, because I had to park kind of far away, I noticed that he's completely purple. Completely purple and super limp. And then as I got even closer, he started convulsing. So I screamed at her and I'm like, you need to pick him up because he found a low branch, luckily. So when we get over there, she picks him up and I realize it's not a rope, it's a fucking ratchet strap.
Jesus.
And he had hooked them in the front and then ratcheted it as tight as he could. So even her picking him up, he was still choking. So he's unconscious at this point. So she picks him up and she couldn't hold his weight. So I pin the two of them against the tree and I'm thanking the Lord that I know how to use a ratcheting strap because a lot of women do not know how to use a ratcheting strap and it is incredibly important that you know how to fucking undo one of those. So I undo it, I jimmy rig it a little bit, get it loose. She lets go and he hangs again because he has it wrapped and tied to another tree. So she's trying to hold him up, and I'm like untying the thing from the tree, and finally we get him down from the tree, and he wasn't breathing. So I'm like pushing on him, hitting him in the face, punching him in the chest, and he finally gasps for air and comes to. So he's just completely out of it, laying in the snowbank. So I'm talking to her, and she's like, when are they going to be here? And I'm like, they said only a couple minutes. And then he realizes that I had called the cops, and he started freaking out, and he's screaming, no. And he tries to get up and run. And I fucking slam him into the thing. And I was like, not today, not today. It's literally what I said to him. And then the cops come, and the ambulance came, and they were talking to me. And I was like, listen, I'll leave you my phone number, but I got to go to work.
That's crazy.
And I drove to work. And that was my Monday.
Damn.
It was scary.
Where
It was
did he end up in the ER?
Yeah, he's in the hospital. He has a hearing today to see how long he's going to have to stay there, because I think he's upset that we stopped him. I don't think that he's in a good place.
Yeah.
So it's been a rough week.
Yeah.
It's been a weird, but I'll tell you that the work that I've done the last few years, and meditating and learning to pause before I do things, I think that's what allowed me to stay so calm. I wasn't even afraid. I didn't feel any fear. I wasn't like, what if I don't save him? I was like, well, we're going to get him down from the tree. And what's the next step? Undo the thing. What's the next step? And it was just very like, just super present in each thing that I was doing. And I think if this had happened to me 10 years ago, it would have been a very different outcome.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, it goes to show kind of what it does for your mind state under pressure, you know?
Yeah. Because, like, this person was just standing there watching him turn purple.
Frozen, right.
Frozen.
Yeah. I feel like probably 9 out of 10 people would have done that.
And I'm like, how...
What are we doing?
What are we doing? Let's go. Like, holy shit. So my boyfriend's not even here this week. He's in Florida golfing for the week. And so he says, why does all this shit happen when I'm not home? Like, Jesus. And so I got some flowers this week.
Nice.
Yeah. Heard you had a bad day. Sent me a bouquet.
That's nice.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
That's nice. So you're a superhero is what you're saying.
I also saved a lady from falling through a floor. She stepped in between some floor joists, and she started falling through the plaster, and I grabbed her under the arms and pulled her back up into the attic.
That's crazy.
And then carried her down the stairs. I got the job.
I would hope so.
Yeah, but then she was a nightmare of a customer.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, I saved your life. Be nice to me.
And then I did CPR on an old lady that was upside face down in the snow like 10 years ago. And I did CPR on her until the paramedics came, and she ended up actually passing. But her daughters found me afterwards, and we're really grateful that
You tried?
I tried and that she wasn't out there by herself.
Yeah.
So this is the third time. So I got a 2 out of 3.
Nice.
I got a 66%. I feel like you should feel semi-safe with me. Not fully safe, but
66% survival rate.
yeah, it's a good. I mean, it's more likely than not that I'll save you.
That's awesome. I don't have any life-saving stories. I did save my brother from falling off a waterfall once, but actually I saved my little brother twice in his life. He was 3, fell in a pool. All the parents were wasted, and I was like 13, and I was the only person that saw him go in. I jumped in and pulled him out, and then we were hiking once, and we were hiking where we shouldn't be hiking. We're at the top of this waterfall. It's about 60 feet, and all rock at the bottom, like it wasn't a deep pool at the bottom. And we were going to jump over the top of like the river, like jumping rocks to get to the other side. And we weren't on trail anymore. We were just in the middle of nowhere. We were there with a couple people. And he went to go jump, and his foot slipped, and he fell into the water, and his legs went off the edge. And I grabbed the back of his shirt, and I pulled him up.
Jeez.
And yeah, it's pretty funny.
It's pretty funny now, but I bet in the moment, that's when you get like that, like pins and needles feeling.
Yeah.
Like, oh man.
Yeah, I think I mean, as far as like crazy lives saved, that's what I got.
I think Monday tops it. I think Monday topped it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I'd like to not have to save any more lives. I was talking to one of my girlfriends about it, and she's like one of my favorite yoga teachers. So she's also very like follows Buddhism, and she's always giving me amazing tips. And I was like, you will not believe, because I go to her Monday morning class and it's called Mindful Monday. So you do like 30 minutes of really gentle flow, and then it's 30 minutes of breathwork and meditation. And she does like those super guided, like amazing. And Monday's theme, and this was literally 2 hours before this happened, was the hero's journey.
Oh, no way.
So I messaged her and I was like, you will not believe. And I was like, and I told her about the other 2 instances, and I was like, the universe, I'm like, try me. And she said, the universe isn't trying you. The universe isn't trusting you. The
I like
universe
that.
trusts you.
It's funny how we take it as a challenge sometimes.
And I was like, oh, philosophical AF, man.
I love that.
I need that on a shirt.
All right, let's wrap this thing up. We didn't get into toolbox tips, but I think we put out a lot of good information here today.
Toolbox tips.
Toolbox
Bummer.
tips. Maybe next time. We'll have you on again.
I would love that.
But yeah, I think that it's good information. So thank you. I appreciate you coming
You're
on. And let's get on that yoga class.
I'm definitely going to do that.
I'm in. All right, cool. Thanks for listening, everybody.